I only have one message to give you. I don't care what you think of me. I don't care what you call me. I do care what you do with this information because it is important to our survival as a species.
See, the word really is complacent. People get complacent. It's a natural instinct. You just won, and now you're happy and you're complacent. Don't be complacent. Okay, don't be complacent, because if they get in, they will repeal your tax cuts. They will put judges in that you wouldn't believe. They'll take away your Second Amendment, which we will never allow to happen. They'll take away your Second Amendment. They will take away those massive tax cuts, and they will take away your Second Amendment. By the way, if you only had a choice of one, what would you rather have, the Second Amendment or the tax cuts? Go ahead. Second Amendment, tax cuts. Second Amendment. We have to act. We can't wait and play games and nothing gets done.
President Trump stunned lawmakers on both sides of the aisle Wednesday with his overarching demands for gun control.
Like, take the firearms first and then go to court.
After Vice President Mike Pence suggested court procedures for removing guns from dangerous people, Trump caught him and many in the room off guard by seeming to dismiss due process.
I like taking the guns early, so you could do exactly what you're saying, but take the guns first, go through due process second.
President Trump also reiterated his support for raising the age limit to purchase some weapons.
It doesn't make sense that I have to wait till I'm 21 to get a handgun, but I can get this weapon at 18. I don't know. So I was just curious as to what you did in your bill.
Whether you like them or don't like them, they have done so much for the African American.
Hillary Clinton is a bigot who sees people of color only as votes, not as human beings worthy of a better future. She's going to do nothing for African Americans. Hillary Clinton, and as you know, most people know, she's a world-class liar. Just look at her pathetic email server statements or her phony landing. Autism has become an epidemic. 25 years ago, 35 years ago, you look at the statistics, not even close. I am totally in favor of vaccines, but I want smaller doses over a longer period of time. And you pump, I mean, it looks just like it's meant for a horse, not for a child. 2 years old, 2.5 years old, a child, a beautiful child, went to have the vaccine and came back and a week later got a tremendous fever, got very, very sick, now is autistic.
Are you overpromising when you say you're going to have 300 million doses of vaccine?
No, I'm not overpromising. I don't know who said it, but whatever the maximum is, whatever you can humanly do, we're going to have. And we hope we're going to come up with a good vaccine. Johnson & Johnson and Oxford and lots of different great companies, representatives of our country in some ways. NIH is working very hard and doing a terrific job. No, I hope we're going to have a vaccine, and we're going to fast track it like you've never seen before. If we come up with a vaccine, I think they probably will.
And who's in charge of that Operation Warp Speed?
We have, you know who's in charge of it, honestly? I am. I'll tell you, I'm really in charge of it. I could say somebody else. I will say we're dealing with, as you know, the general and the admiral. They're very much in charge. But I think probably more than anything, I'm in charge, and I'm the one that gets blamed, and I get blamed anyway. Don't forget, if we come up with a vaccine in record time, they'll say I should have done it faster. Nobody has more respect for women than I do. Nobody. Nobody has more respect.
Please, everybody.
And frankly, those stories have been largely debunked.
still very beautiful.
I moved on her, actually. You know, she was down in Palm Beach. I moved on her, and I failed. I'll admit it.
Whoa.
I did try and she was married.
That's huge news, Sarah.
No, Nancy.
Yeah.
No, this was marriages. And I moved on her very heavily. In fact, I took her out furniture shopping. She wanted to get some furniture. I said, I'll show you where they have some nice furniture. I took her out furniture. I moved on her like a bitch, but I couldn't get there. And she was married. And all of a sudden, I see her. She's now got the big phony tits and everything. She's totally changed her look.
She's your girl's hottie. In the purple.
Whoa.
Yes.
Whoa.
Yes, Nadal has scored.
Whoa.
Oh, my man. Wait, you gotta look at me when you get out. You're like,
sets this up.
That is very
will you give me the thumbs
Look at
up?
you. You are a
You gotta put the thumbs up. You gotta get the thumbs up. Can't be too happy.
First? Yeah, let me.
It's very
You
funny.
gotta give me the thumbs up.
All right, you and I will walk down.
Oh my God.
Maybe it's a different one.
Better not be the publicist. No, it's her.
Yeah, that's her, with the gold. I gotta use some Tic Tacs just in case I start kissing her. You know, I'm automatically attracted to beautiful. I just start kissing them. It's like a magnet. You just kiss. I don't even wait. And when you're a star, they let you do it. You can do anything.
Whatever you want.
Grab them by the pussy. You can do anything.
What does Tiffany have of yours, and what does Tiffany have of Marla's?
Well, I think that she's got a lot of Marla. She's really a beautiful baby, and she's got Marla's legs. We don't know whether or not she's got this part yet, but time will tell.
Ivanka Trump. We want to know a little bit more about you guys, so we play this game here. It's called Fave 5. I'll ask the question. Ivanka, you answer first, and then Dad, you answer also.
This is tough.
Okay, Ivanka, what's the favorite thing you have in common with your father?
Either real estate or golf.
Donald, with your daughter?
Well, I was going to say sex, but I can't relate that to beautiful Ivanka.
By the way, your daughter.
She's beautiful.
Can I say this? A piece of ass.
Yeah.
If they were using her to...
I don't think Ivanka would do that inside the magazine, although she does have a very nice figure. I've said that if Ivanka weren't my daughter, perhaps I'd be dating her. You know.
Stop it! Oh, it's so weird. Stop.
You know what? You are sick.
I know, isn't that terrible?
Yeah.
No, how
Well, you're
terrible.
known for saying
Is that
outrageous
terrible?
things, Mr. Trump.
Who are you, Woody Allen?
Now the Democrats are politicizing the coronavirus. You know that, right? Coronavirus. They're politicizing it. We did one of the great jobs. You say, how's President Trump doing? They go, oh, not good, not good. They have no clue. They don't have any clue. They can't even count their votes in Iowa. They can't even count. No, they can't. And this is their new hoax.
Tonight, in About Face, President Trump for the first time tweeting out a photo of himself wearing a mask, writing, "Many people say it is patriotic to wear a face mask when you can't socially distance. There is nobody more patriotic than me, your favorite president."
Not long after he tweeted out that masks were patriotic, we got this video. The Trump's hotel in Washington. You see him with a bunch of luminaries. There's Meadows and Rudy and Lindsay. No masks, no problem. The president socializing, his aides socializing at this gathering tonight in D.C. So that happened.
Hey guys, how you doing? I wanted to make this video today. As you can see from the clips I put together, I wanted to show you that Trump is not your friend. Trump is not for you. Trump does not represent freedom. Trump does not represent any patriotic ideals whatsoever. All he represents is authoritative control, executive orders, laws by decree, and just doing what he wants and not giving a fuck. And before you say, oh, you're a leftist, you're a this, you're a Democrat. No, I'm not. I'm not political at all, because all politics is theater. It's a show for you to watch. It's not real. These people are not enemies. They all work behind the scenes against your best interest. There is no left. There is no right. It's a false paradigm. I do not fall into that. I transcend that, as should you. You shouldn't be trapped in it. None of it's real. You need to realize that Trump is not your friend. He's not going to make America great again. He's not going to do anything that's going to increase your ability to exercise your freedoms in this country. Period, point blank. Just like any other politician. And a lot of people, especially the QAnon people, they're the worst. And I don't say that with malice. I say it as I support them wanting to find the truth and them understanding things that they're being told aren't true. And yeah, there are conspiracies against you and they're on the right track, but then they get herded into this, into this camp, for lack of better words, and they abdicate their own critical and analytical thinking abilities to a group of unknown people that they can't even prove exist and they can't see. So instead of them acting, instead of them making signs, getting out there, protesting, calling their politicians, organizing groups of people to demonstrate, they're just saying, oh, follow Q, trust the plan. They're just sitting back. Don't worry, guys. There's a bunch of white hats in the NSA and DIA, CIA, all these groups, and they're working in our best interest, guys. Don't worry. Just sit back. Get some popcorn, make a hot pocket, because this is the calm before the storm. You have no idea what's coming. Trump is playing 547,000 D chess. You do not understand how smart he is. Oh God, I'd suck the dick right off his pelvis if I could. That's pretty much how I view most Q followers. That's their thought process. And it's scary, because I want to consider you my brothers and sisters, and I do. But you have to get out of that mindset. You have to take action yourself. You can't abdicate your role in this life and your responsibility and your ability to act to someone you don't know, to someone you can't prove exists, and to someone who has been proven in the past to be very duplicitous, very Machiavellian in their, approach to life, business, everything. I don't see how people can still support him at this point. I mean, if you don't see by now that he doesn't give a fuck about you, and all he did was say things to get elected, like, oh, investigate 9/11, blah, blah, blah. But then he put someone like Rudy Giuliani involved with his affairs, who that guy was just as involved as anybody in the cover-up of 9/11. Trump never brings up Israel and their involvement in 9/11. It's always Saudi Arabia. No, it was the Mossad, it was the CIA, it was MI6, you know what I mean? It was a couple other groups all working in coordination months and months and months ahead of time. 9/11 was planned decades in advance. It was planned at its construction, you know what I mean? At the tower's construction. There's really no truth to anything he says. He says, oh, I don't want to go off on a tangent with 9/11, but, let's investigate 9/11, all this and that. He doesn't. He doesn't do anything. He doesn't assign an objective, non-biased counsel or any group to investigate it. Same thing with Obama's birth certificate. Oh, Obama wasn't born in this country. Yeah, he really wasn't born in this country. Obama had another man's social security number. That is proven fact. A man from Connecticut. That is actually documented. Obama had, I think, the woman killed who issued his birth certificate actually out of Hawaii in a plane crash, where I think she was the only one who died. I could be wrong on that, but look that up too. I can't remember her name. Even they're saying Obama had his grandmother in Kenya killed because she was going to tell the truth. Even his own brother says, yeah, he was born in Kenya. I think his brother even has a Twitter where he talks about that stuff. So where's Donald Trump now, making all this fuss, but then not having the guy investigated? And then he wants to talk about Spygate, they spied on my campaign and this and that, and oh, lock Hillary up, and oh, she's a criminal, they're all crooked, they're all liars. Nothing's happened. Guys, it's been 4 years, nothing's happened. And then people argue, oh, it takes time, all these sealed indictments, all Gitmo, executions. No, none of that's happening, guys. None of it's happening. What are you going to do, wait forever? You're going to wait 20 years and then argue, oh, it takes time? That's asinine, and you know it, and stop thinking like that. Stop being a goddamn fool and actually think for yourself. Seriously. I'm not trying to be insulting, but fuck, man. Wake up. Wake up. If you really think that that's happening, I just don't know what to tell you. I really don't. It's scary. So like I said, Trump is not your friend, guys. You know what I mean? 4 more years, what do you think's going to happen? Honestly, I think we'll probably be in concentration camps before the end of next year. I mean, he's already, actually, let's get into it right now about the vaccine. I already showed you how wishy-washy he is on his stance, but then wants to use the military to distribute coronavirus vaccine. Remember when I showed you that video earlier when he talked about, getting 300 million doses, as quickly as possible, and he wants to use the military to do it. He said that before these George Floyd protests, started really kicking off, which, by the way, whether or not you think the guy actually died or whether you think it was a false flag, and we can get into the video and how the cop might not be the same guy from the mugshot, how the badges are crooked, how the people who loaded him into the ambulance weren't EMTs. I get it. I've looked it up. It's not about that. The point is that event is being used, true or not, to facilitate disruption and unrest. It's giving people a false martyr. It's giving people a reason to get out in the streets and tear shit up, when otherwise they should be protesting things like this that he says. The fact that, government is totally corrupt in general. We should be out protesting the fact we have to pay excise tax, the fact we have to pay property tax. We should be fighting for a loyal titleship. We should be fighting for, no income tax. We should be fighting for all sorts of real things, but we don't, because we get all these red herrings and all these, traps and all these false opposition movements, and none of it's real, none of it's grassroots. Black Lives Matter is not even run by black people. It was started and funded by Jewish people. That's fact. I don't care what you think. Do your own research. Alright, Trump says he would mobilize military to distribute coronavirus vaccine. President Trump said he would rapidly mobilize the U.S. military to distribute a coronavirus vaccine once it's ready, focusing first on nursing homes and the elderly most vulnerable to deadly complications from the virus. Yeah, give an experimental, never-before-used technology DNA, RNA vaccine to the most vulnerable group of people who probably take the most government benefits and who you would benefit from having killed off earlier than they should be, because that's just less money you have to spend. And they already talk about this. Even Bill Gates himself said, death panels, we're not supposed to talk about that, giving less care to the elderly and to people who he deems need it more. These people don't care, guys. They do not care about you. If they had their way, they would kill every single one of you. I mean, they poison children. Look at a beautiful, innocent child and how playful and just, trusting and just fun and just optimistic they are about the world. Look at a little toddler and just try to think in your head, someone out there wants to poison, murder, rape, torture, abuse that child. Those people exist. Those are the same people who want to put experimental bullshit in your child's arm. You know what I mean? These people do not give a fuck about you, your kids, your parents, your grandparents, no one. These people, they make themselves out to be these, great people in public, but in private, they're really shitty people. And Trump wants to use the military to do this, and these protests, what do? They give him the pretext. They say, okay, we have to send federal troops in, like I made 2 videos on already. Send those into quote-unquote Democrat cities. It's not about Democrat or Republican. Like I said, he's going to do it everywhere across the nation. There's not going to be a press conference where they say, all right, we declare martial law starting now. No, it's going to be incremental death by 1,000 cuts. It's going to be first 2-week lockdown. That's what it was. Then it's going to be, curfews. Then it's going to be, 2 more weeks. 2 more weeks. You can't go anywhere without a mask. You have to stand this far apart. It's just a little. No, shut the fuck up. I'm not doing any of that shit. And you shouldn't either, because all this is control and bullshit. This guy wants to send federal forces to quote-unquote Democrat cities. President Donald Trump on Monday said he would send law enforcement to more U.S. cities as a federal crackdown on anti-racism protests. Yeah, that's what it's about. In Oregon, with unmarked cars and unidentified forces angered people across the country. Trump, a Republican, you see how they they reinforce that narrative, even if an article is pro-Trump or against Trump. They always, what I advise you do also is study neurolinguistic programming, by the way. Look up neurolinguistic programming, NLP. If you haven't looked that up, study it and research it. Please do that, because it will give you so much more insight when these people speak. But you see how they reinforce it, regardless of whether or not it's pro or anti-Trump. They always reinforce the Democrat and Republican narrative. The narrative is Trump wants to send federal troops into Democrat cities, and then it says Trump, a Republican. You know what I mean? Like, it's just putting it in your mind, so that way when you associate it with it, you go, oh, that's true, because you just believe it to be because it's told to you. Do you know what I mean? There is no left, there is no right, there is no Democrat, there is no Republican. Look at what they say in their own words, people. And please, like I said, study neurolinguistic programming. That is a very useful tool in your repertoire. I like that word, repertoire. We're sending law enforcement, Trump told reporters at the White House. We can't let this happen to the cities. Such an ambiguous statement. And then you have the state and local leaders in Oregon doing the false, like, oh, we're against this stance. So you have the, hey, I'm going to do this, and then you have the, hey, don't do this, we're Democrats and we don't support it, Trump's insane. But if it was a Democrat doing it, they would be like, God bless him, Godspeed, actually. You're doing the best possible thing you can do. You know what I mean? Not only do I believe he is breaking the law, but he is also endangering the lives of Portlanders. The city's mayor, Ted Wheeler, tweeted, having previously called the federal presence political theater. Hey, someone telling the truth for once, huh? Political theater. What was I saying earlier? All this is fake. It's theater. It's an act. Donald Trump was literally a reality TV star. Like, did you totally forget that about the guy? He quite literally is an actor. There's clips of him online at the WWE, like, pretending to be against, like, Vince McMahon and all this stuff or whatever. I don't really pay attention to wrestling. I think it's fucking gay. But anyway, there's clips out there of this guy acting, and that's all he's been doing for years. Like, all of a sudden, he's serious. All of a sudden, he's, no nonsense, and everything he says you can trust. He literally lied for a job. That's what an actor is. They pretend to be someone they're not for money. You know what I mean? Like, you have to understand those concepts. Like, I remember I've seen, like, a lot of the cult of personality. I've seen, like, interviews with celebrities where they say, sometimes when people approach them, fans come up to them, they're confusing them with their characters in whatever show or movie they play, and they say a lot of the times people call them the name of the character, and they just genuinely believe that that person is that character in real life, and they can't disassociate the two things, as one being real and one not being real. They just associate that person and go, oh, you could take I don't know. You could take I'm trying to think of a show, but that shows how much I watch TV, right? I mean, you could take a show like I don't know, whatever. I can't think of any shows. I don't watch TV. You could just think of any character and then just picture a fan coming up to them and calling them by that name and not understanding that that is a real person with, totally independent thoughts and actions from a TV show, and that's not even, who they are. So people associate Trump with what he says, but, and what he claims to stand for, but like I said, nothing he says or claims to stand for is solid. He'll just go wherever the wind blows. Someone says do this, he does that. Someone says this, he does that. It's just this constant, house of sand just slipping into the sea. And then, here's another thing I saw, too. Connecticut says it found testing flaw in 90 false positives. Now, Trump wants to give you a vaccine for a supposed disease causing a pandemic right now, when we've established that this isn't a pandemic, and they're lying and they're openly falsifying the numbers in order to get higher numbers that they can report to then give themselves power to say, well, this constitutes as a pandemic because it's meant X amount of deaths, blah, blah, blah. So now we decree this power upon ourselves, and we can lock people down and give them curfews, etc. So this is an article that just came out today. Susan Haig at the Associated Press, scientists at Connecticut's Public Health Laboratory say they've discovered a flaw in the manufacturer's testing system for the coronavirus that's used by labs across the country. So far, it's resulted in 90 people, mostly residents of Connecticut nursing homes, again, and assisted living facilities, recently receiving false tests. Now, what they don't say is that was out of 144 people. Let me see if I can find that part. DPH said the affected patients were originally tested between June 15th and July 17th. A total of 144 tested positive and 90 were discovered to be false positives. The state has reported the flaw to the manufacturer and the Federal Food and Drug Administration. In a written statement, the agency said the exact cause of the false positive results is still being investigated. Now go to the beginning of the article again. Scientists at Connecticut's Public Health Laboratory say they've discovered a flaw in a manufacturer's testing system for the coronavirus that's used by labs across the country. So if 90 out of 144 people, like I said, flip a coin, you got it, flip a coin, you don't. Flip a coin, hey, now you got it, flip a coin, oh, now you don't. That's about as accurate as the test is, because this is not a real disease, it's not real. And if it is real, it was created in a lab and given out somehow, probably through flu vaccines, whatever, I don't know. But I'm very sure it's not real. Like I said, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I'm open to being wrong, but I'm very sure it's not real. So flip a coin, you got it, flip a coin, you don't. And that's all across the country. Like I said previously in my other video, the CDC admits it, guys. And this guy wants to put federal troops out all across the country to distribute a vaccine, and all this other stuff, these protests and everything else, is being used as a pretext to do it. So no matter how you look at it, this guy is just pro-authoritarian military control. He wants to be a dictator while proclaiming to be for you and a nationalist taking slings and arrows. Fuck off. No, you're not. You're an asshole. And anyone who believes you, quite frankly, at this point is an asshole and needs to get their head out of their asshole. You know what I mean? I'm not trying to be a dick, guys. Like I said, I'm not pro-Trump, I'm not anti-Trump. I'm pro-freedom, I'm anti-liar, anti-tyrant, anti-fascist, anti-anything that puts a damper on my or your freedom. I'm not for control of people, period. I'm for free thinking. I'm for thinking for yourself, thinking critically, using discernment, and being able to see the forest for the trees. And I think everyone should be like that, and it's a shame that we've gotten so dumbed down. Honestly, I'm not even smart, if you really want the truth. I just don't know why, but for some reason, I'm not really affected by the programming. The brainwashing just doesn't affect me. You know, I just don't know. I don't know what it is. Some people are like that, some people aren't. I don't know. I wish I knew. Let's see. Yeah, here we go. Coronavirus, come on. Coronavirus checkpoints, restrictions bring on lawsuits, constitutional questions. So we've noticed too since the beginning of this, I personally have seen checkpoints set up when I was in Florida going into Georgia on, I think it was I-10, like 95 or one, confusing which one, but it was right when you were getting into Jacksonville. And I remember seeing a checkpoint, and they were pulling people over and just asking where they were coming from, etc. They were pretty much just letting people go through, but just the fact that you had to stop and answer those questions, to me, in and of itself, is like, nope, not gonna do it. Fuck you, eat my shit. Not answering your questions, fuck off. But people are doing it, and they're going all across the country. And I mean, they're probably everywhere, and we just probably don't even hear about it, honestly. State and local governments have taken extraordinary measures to slow the spread of the coronavirus in recent weeks, including by closing down restaurants and places for public gatherings. But they've also drawn a backlash with efforts seen by some as overly aggressive or even constitutional. Gee, you fucking think? One of the focal points of these complaints has been vehicle checkpoints, as states increasingly harden their own borders in a bid to restrict travel from regions hard hit by the virus. Okay. So you're going to tell me, basically, I'm coming from a certain state, I need to sign this paper, or face fines, face charges because I'm going to refuse to quarantine or I'm going to refuse to give information. I just read that the other day. There was this couple that happened to. Where is that coming from? Turn that garbage off, right? I read an article the other day. There was this couple, I believe it was in Texas, who refused to quarantine, and then they had to wear ankle bracelets. Like, this is where we're coming to, guys. People being put under house arrest as non-criminals for a virus that we can't prove exists, that they openly admit they're lying about as far as how many people have died, and they're openly falsifying and inflating data. Guys, this is not my opinion. This is what they tell you. Use their own words against them. Thinking of traveling? These states have travel restrictions. So now I can't travel as a free American. I also can't get a passport issued. Did you know they're not issuing passports right now? Did you know you can barely fly to any place in the fucking country right now from the U.S.? Did you know you already can't get on a flight and go from one state to another without having an 18-year-old Puerto Rican kid whose first job it is and doesn't give a fuck about being there, and honestly he just wants to go home and hang out with his friends? You know, I can't get on a plane without him wanting to shove a finger in my asshole, you know, or jiggle my balls around just because he can. You know what I mean? So it's like, what the fuck, people? Wake the fuck up. You know? Americans, first it was the TSA, now it's going to be fucking, you know, coronavirus checks everywhere, forehead temperature checks, whatever, blood tests, forced blood draws, whatever the fuck. Americans are planning millions of trips this summer within the United States. According to a forecast released by the AAA last month, but packing a face mask and hand sanitizer aren't the only things these travelers need to consider, as a third of states have restrictions in place for visitors, from mandatory testing to quarantine requirements. For Disease Control and Prevention is continuing caution against travel. Remember, these are the same people who openly admit, I showed you in my other video, that they're falsifying data. They're lying to you about how many people are dying. They're inflating the numbers. They're counting people who get their heads cut off in motorcycle accidents, and if they test the stump of that head, you know, oh, tested positive for coronavirus, we flipped a coin and they're positive, now they died of COVID. They're literally taking someone whose head was cut off and saying they died of COVID. That's reality. That's what they're actually doing, and they admit they're doing that. These are the very same people who tell you, oh, stay in your house, wear a mask, don't go anywhere, stay 6 feet apart from people. Gee, it's almost like they're taking every fucking step possible to ensure that militias don't get together, that protesters don't demonstrate, that people don't, you know, spread information. Like, look at YouTube, dude. Look how many people have been taken out. I think John X Army was taken out, Press for Truth, Dan Dix, Russian Vids, Max Egan from the Crow House. Richie from Boston will probably get taken out soon. Fullerton Informer will probably get taken out soon. StopTheCrime.net will probably get taken out soon. There's a couple that will, I already know. But they're censoring what we can say. They're censoring where we can go. They're censoring if you can even leave your house. They're censoring if you can leave your house, what you're allowed to wear when you do leave your house. When you have to go back in your house, when it's Betty Bye time, because the government says you can have a curfew. You know, these people do not give a fuck about you guys. And Trump is the head of all this. Remember, he said in that clip, you know, ultimately I'm in charge. You know what I mean? He wants to give you the vaccine. The very vaccine funded by the very same people who admit they don't have your best interests at heart and that they actively conspire against you. These are the facts, people, and this is what you're going to have to deal with. Trump is not for you. Trump is not your friend. Do your own research and look into things. Don't just take everything I said as gospel, obviously. But folks, I've presented a lot of good information and I've made a lot of good points. And if at this point you still think he's your friend and you still think he's not a liar and you still think he's just, you know, he's not saying whatever he has to say to get wherever he needs to be, then you're delusional. I'm sorry. I want nothing more than all of us to come together, black, white, Hispanic, Asian, gay, straight, Christian, you know, Hindu, whatever you happen to be. I want us all to come together under the, you know, auspice, I think that's the word, you know, of love. I want us to all come together because we care for each other. Yeah, we should have different cultures. Yeah, we should have different countries. We shouldn't have one world government. We shouldn't have one world religion. We shouldn't have one world anything. Do I agree that, you know, there should be maybe like a independent group that checks on violations of human rights, sure, maybe something like that, you know, but it shouldn't be funded by any one government, and it shouldn't be controlled by any one government. It should be a, you know, coalition of people who want to come together and do a good thing. But remember, guys, anytime there's centralization of any type of power, there will be corruption, which is why fundamentally I'm against government. But I mean, a constitutional republic like the United States of America is really the best we're going to get, and it's the best we've ever had throughout human history. This has been the craziest social experiment throughout all of human history, and you've been a part of it. I've been a part of it. You know, this country has only been around for a few hundred years, and yet we've done some of the craziest things, made some of the craziest strides, you know, been responsible for, and, you know, fell victim to some of the greatest events in United States history, in world history, I mean. Whether or not you believe we landed on the moon, I don't think it's real, but, you know, supposedly we did that, you know, like, there's just so many things this country has achieved and accomplished throughout the years. It's a shame to just watch it, you know, go down the drain, and to just see people bend over and just be slaves. My family, my friends, everyone I know, for the most part, pretty much is just going along to get along and not asking any questions, and gets upset at me if I even bring any of this up. And yeah, I know, I sound caustic, I sound like I'm angry, I sound like, you know, I just need to calm down probably, but I've been ranting about this stuff for 10 years now. I've been wanting to do YouTube videos for a while, but I've been telling people about this stuff since like 2011. Ever since I got back from Afghanistan, the things I saw, the things I did, it made me realize that the world is not at all how you think it is, and it's not what you're told. And pretty much everything you believe in is a lie. And all these people that you think have your best interest don't. And I've been sounding the bell. You know, back when the Ebola thing first happened, I thought, you know, this is going to be martial law. They're going to use this as a pretext to establish martial law under the medical thing. I even made bumper stickers and put them on my car saying as much, driving around. I would tell everybody. I've been sounding the alarm for a long time. I've been wrong on my timing, but as far as being on the mark, people who know me, I've been on the money for years. But only more recently I've noticed people are more open to listen to me that weren't before, you know, but for the most part still, most people just, they don't want anything to do with it. So I don't want to keep this video going on any longer. It's already way too long, you know. I don't really have a set format, I guess. I like to do videos, I like to rant, I like to go through internet articles. Pretty much this channel is just going to be whatever I want to do. And if you don't like it, you don't have to watch it. I really don't care. But like I said, I want you to get the information that you're not going to get anywhere else, because, you know, if you get your information from one source, or you trust one person, you're most often always going to be led astray. So you need to pool your information from multiple sources. You need to come to your own conclusions, and you need to think for yourself and decide what is and what is not bullshit. You know what I mean? And when you believe in Christ, honestly, it cuts through a lot of the bullshit, because I never did believe in Jesus. I never believed in any of that stuff. I'm still on the fence as to whether or not Jesus is just a metaphor for the pineal gland. Then you have the vesica piscis and the geometric center of the brain, you know, the holy trinity of the left and the right brain being brought together by the pineal gland at the seat of the soul, blah, blah, blah. Jesus was the anointer. Your pineal gland produces the DMT, which is the, you know, the quote-unquote oil, you know, the, I don't know, you get into all that too, but I never believed in all that. But what makes me believe it is the fact that these people at the top that control things, they do worship these like ancient, you know, deities, Molech and whatever. I don't know. They openly admit that they're either Satanists or they're Luciferians, or they believe in this stuff in these ancient Babylon religions. And that should scare you, is these people have all the money in the world. They dictate what money is. You know what I mean? And yet they still believe in this stuff. Like, how can you be an atheist? An atheist just tells me you're not informed and haven't really done much research, honestly, because I was an atheist, and I can tell you I was very uninformed, very arrogant, and just thought I knew everything. I don't know everything. I could be wrong about everything I've said in this video, goddamn, seriously. But my point is, people at the top believe in this stuff, And if you don't believe in anything and you don't stand for anything, then you're going to fall for everything.